You're locked into Inception Radio Network, Superior, Wisconsin.
You're tuned in to Nightvision Radio, exposing the truth, one secret at a time. Prepare yourself as we explore the shadow worlds of suppressed history, secret knowledge, forbidden religion, and shine a light on the conspiracies to keep it all from us. Welcome to Nightvision Radio. Hey everyone, welcome indeed to Nightvision Radio. I'm glad you could be with us this evening. We've got an exciting show planned for this evening. It's going to be some new information for this show, so I'm very, very excited about that. Always want to learn new things and hear new experiences. Before we get started, just wanted to say once again, thank you to those of you who friended me on Facebook this week and who liked the Night Vision page. I love it when you do that, and it does help us. So please, if you would, continue to monitor what we post on the Night Vision Facebook page and like it, if you would please, and also on my site, René Barnett, on Facebook. Again, tonight we've got a great show planned. There's a lot of material to cover, so I don't want to take up too much more time. I do want to say that we are very close to publicly posting the itinerary for the France tour in September. And we're finalizing the itinerary and also the speakers that we're going to have there. It's not just going to be me. It's also going to be, of course, Gary Evans, who you've heard on this show, and Henry Lincoln, of course. We couldn't go to France without seeing Henry, and also best-selling author Tim Wallace-Murphy will be along with us. I'm pretty sure Gloria Amendola is going to join us on that trip as well. So it should be a jam-packed time. We should have a really great time over in France. And of course, you know, it's my favorite place in the world. And I love to get back there any chance I get. And that's in the Languedoc-Roussillon area. So anyone interested in going, just let me know. If you can't find me on Facebook, go ahead and shoot an email to Inception and they'll forward it to me. All right. Without any further delay, I want to thank my guest tonight. I want to thank our Night Vision friend Dex Dobie also for connecting me with tonight's guest. Our guest this evening is a CE5 experiencer. Now, I refreshed my memory on the sort of levels of close encounters. And the first, I think, 4 were set up by Dr. J. Allen Hynek. And a close encounter of the first kind is a visual sighting of a UFO. The second kind is some sort of physical effect on a person or machinery or on your vehicle. The third kind is an animated creature being present, whether it be humanoid, robot, or a human-looking person. Of the fourth kind, it's an abduction, or argued by Jacques Vallée that it also should be a transformational experience. It could also include a transformational experience. Now, we have what our guest is tonight, a close encounter experiencer of the 5th kind. And according to Dr. Stephen Greer of CSETI, I believe, he's the one who coined this next level, and that is direct communication between human and alien. So without any further ado, I want to introduce Tony Topping, and thank you so much for joining us, Tony, from the UK. Thanks for getting up at this ungodly hour or staying up. I don't know which.
No, it's all right, lovely. Hello there. No, you're fine. Love. It's one of those things where the message, you've got to do these things, haven't you, to get up on a morning. Here in the UK, it's coming up to, I think, 3:30. You've just got to do this to get the message across. Yeah, and I think the biggest secret of all, René, is the fact that, and it is a fact among my kind of ilk, that the biggest secret of all is nothing like contact with UFOs, the occupants behind them. The whole vehicle and situation is very different to what is written about on the internet, and what people are saying on the internet, or even writing in books. Because the key is that what is staggering is that the ETs actually look like us. We look like them; they look like us, and that's the staggering thing about it. Really, absolutely staggering that we are not alone in this universe.
It's amazing. Now, I know I read a little bit about you and found that you've sort of had these experiences. They've sort of been a lifelong thing for you.
Yes.
These, and I read that not necessarily just extraterrestrial experiences, but sort of anomalous or paranormal experiences. Could you tell us a little bit about how that came into your awareness?
Of course. It all began in childhood for me. At the age of 2, I think. I'm now 44. 44. And it began at the age 2. It is interesting that in the year 2014, 2015, that the reasons why all this was happening became apparent. But back then, at the time of 2 years of age, I'm actually looking, I was 2, and I have a photographic memory of being put to sleep by my father, and this experience that I had was actually dismissed on national television by a man called Dr. Chris French as being sleep paralysis and false memory syndrome. There's some very interesting backgrounds to all them, but what happened to me was that I know, because I saw it with my own 2 eyes, and what it was a symbology of 2 individuals, like an occult esoteric symbolism they were displaying, walking through a wall in my room. Now, at age 2, that happening, it was very shocking. Now I can see it now. I'm there now. I can see it now. I can remember my father trying to tell me that I hadn't seen anything, and I can remember screaming my head off and pointing to where I'd seen what I'd seen, and my father was having none of this. And in the process of that, I bit my lip. So I was bleeding at the time, and he put me in the cot. And that symbology of what they did at age 2 revealed itself, I think, was it last year or beginning of this year? Possibly beginning of this year, I think, as to why they were doing what they were doing. But yes, so that was my first incident at age 2, this symbology. Little would I know that this would continue into adulthood, where I'd be stalked by a unconstitutional goon squad located within the intelligence services somewhere within the framework of national security in the UK. They started stalking me as well, and I've had unmarked helicopters film me, and so on and so on. So it became, from a childhood symbolic experience, it develops into this crazy, wacky races type comedy circus that became to the point where René, I was harassed by them, and I'll discuss into that. But I was harassed by them, made my life a living hell. The harassment, because I was experiencing what I was experiencing, little knowing that the experiences would overtake those who harassed me, because they were good but not God. So what would happen is, I never thought that would happen, but it did. The experiences began to overtake them in such a way that it was so unorthodox what was happening that it began to, how can I put it? It was an unorthodox way, really, of striking back at them. Very unorthodox. And that's really what happened. And I called that a covert war. My covert war with private interests, I actually called it, where there is a covert interest. There is a shadow government that is overseeing the UFO cover-up and is at war with each other over where it should be going. And it goes even deeper than that. It goes into the psychic espionage programs of America and Russia. So really, René, without too much waffle, that's really basically what happened to me. And then the contact experiences with the UFOs were really happened in these past 2 years, although they've been ongoing for quite a while. Little did I know, I kept journals. I've got various journals that I kept from 2000 to about 2009. And looking back, I couldn't understand what was going on. Kept them on my shelf for a number of years. Didn't do anything with them. And then came back to them and read through them. And they're very revealing as to what is happening, and very revealing on the modus operandi of what my harassers were doing. And it's interesting to note how that all developed as well, because that showed a set pattern that there was indeed something going on, and I couldn't quite get to the bottom of it.
I'm sorry, your journals, the information that you were writing in there, and then you later reviewed, was that information that was given to you by the extraterrestrials, or just things that you were observing?
Yeah, that's a very good question, really. It was both. It was actually both. And what was fascinating was the fact that the interactions that were going on, as I read through the journals, I noted that they were speaking to somebody else. And this was very bizarre. So what was happening was they were actually, an element of these extraterrestrials were speaking to a mysterious third party who were also involved with my experiences that I believe was human. So somebody somewhere in this world today, or even further down the timeline, is in contact and communication with them, and it's quite evident that is the case. There were some fascinating incidents this year and last year to do with the Ukraine, involving the Nordic Scandinavian blonde grouping, which appear to be, out of all the groups of my experiences, the ones who have stepped forward and said that what has been going on with me has been highly unethical. And they're not happy with that. That's another story, and we don't want to. I'm maybe running away, Rennie, with the narrative here. We're going too far ahead into the narrative.
Well,
maybe. So,
I absolutely do want to get into particular experiences and particular stories, and I did find that fascinating when you wrote that to me in a note earlier about the Ukraine. I certainly did want to ask you about that, but before we get to that. You were talking about this harassment that you started to experience.
Yes, that's right.
Now, didn't that happen after you had appeared on a documentary and sort of became on someone's radar, maybe?
No. What happened there, Rennie, how it works is that what happened there is I put up a website on the internet, but this was because I put this website up because in 1999, what had happened really, I'd lived in London for a while. I'd gone to stage school in London, got myself a top place at a London stage school. My father, who I didn't get on with, was a healer. In fact, and a lot of people find this shocking when I say this, but he didn't used to smack me. He was capable of laying me sparked out on the bed with a severe headache, psychically. At the age of 8 or 9, if I was naughty, he wouldn't hit me. He would just lay me out on the bed with a severe headache, which a lot of people find cruel. He was a cruel man, really. I didn't get on with him. We didn't like each other in later years either, and it's a damn shame because I've seen him heal poorly animals. I've seen him bring somebody back from the brink when they had a heart attack. He was a gifted healer, but unfortunately, we just didn't get on, and it kind of like, that relationship, it tainted my life a great deal. I ended up going to stage school. He didn't like the idea of his son swanning off to a top London stage school. As far as he was concerned, I should stay in the north of England, get married, and that was it. And he didn't really like that. He was a hard man. He didn't like his son going to stage school. He disapproved of that. And there was never any encouragement from him to do anything, really. Never any encouragement at all. He just thought his son was some sort of idiot. And I returned. The experiences then began really in London in about 1996. 96, 95 really, where I started having the UFOs, these little dot of light things, coming in over the rooftops of St Mary Cray in Kent, and over the rooftops in Paddington, in Parade Street, Paddington, whereby I saw one of these UFOs. It looked as if it was going to crash into a block of flats, but it ended up just simply disappearing into thin air. And I could not understand for the life of me what the hell was going on. But whoever they were, they knew what was going on with me, and they were watching me. And that's it was fascinating looking back as to why they were doing it, because we're still not clear on that reason as to why they were doing what they were doing at the time. And then I returned to Yorkshire, and just to cut a long story short, really in 1999 began my primary UFO incident, where a UFO came in over the house, over the estate, and illuminated a television antenna twice. Now, this was once again wheeled onto national TV in the UK on a programme called This Morning, and they dismissed it. Dr. French said, "Oh no, it's nothing, not a UFO, this, that and the other." The fact is that the thing had reverse gears. It didn't have any civil aviation strobe lighting sequence on it. It was moving backwards, forwards, doing a 360-degree rotation. Its occupant, in fact, was a female pilot. It was not from round here, and it was engaging with me, but it was possibly engaging with somebody else. Whoever it was they were signalling to, it wasn't just they were interested in me, but they were also interested in somebody else. So they'd never, ever do anything without reason. Never ever do they do anything without reason. And so that's how it really began. And as a result of this UFO coming in. Sorry?
Did you ever question yourself, could this really be happening?
I question myself all the time, René, including my sanity. And I assure you that as it went deeper and deeper, these experiences that began in 1999, it took me about 12 years, I would think, to suss out what was going on. It took me 12 years. The goons who targeted me knew a bit more, obviously knew what was going on with me, but it's took me 12 years to know what I know now and to go beyond them. But these goons, that what happened was that this UFO came in, but it left this kind of signal, as it were, in time, shall we say. And this brought the goon squad out the woodwork, and I ended up being followed. I ended up getting phone calls. I ended up being filmed by an unmarked helicopter. And it primarily centred around a unit of individuals who were harassing me, centred around one man in particular who seemed to be running some sort of Dr. Strangelove circus and was targeting individuals like myself. This man is still at large. This is the man who I have a real issue over what he did to me, him and his cronies. And my government may not know, but the previous government and elements of intelligence services know who this circus is. And so I was at loggerheads with them because I had a UFO coming in over my house. And they made my life, René, a living hell, an absolute living hell with mind-invasive artificial technology. And they really made my life hell. It was unbelievable.
And how did you experience that?
Well, if you can imagine, René, having now, to all intents and purposes, the whole ethos, the whole modus operandi of getting away with it is based on what not is known, what can be proven. So it can be proven that this didn't happen. It can be proven that this doesn't happen within the framework of a democratic society. It can be proven this. It can be proven that. When they know, and governments do know, they do know, René, that the exact opposite goes on. So they do know that this goes on. They do know that people are targeted. They do know that mind control is used on the public. But they prove the entire opposite. So they prove in mainstream society that none of my experiences happened and that I'm a complete and utter loon. And they prove it's provable. It's plausible, deniable. What they were doing to me, for example, René, if you could imagine at 4 and 3 in the morning being awoken up to screaming gunfire in the head, on the hour, every hour, to be awoken at all hours of the night and day to go to the toilet, to be awoken at 5:45 on the morning. It was about 5:45 every morning when I was working with an alarm clock ringing in your head. To be under overt and covert surveillance with the man walking past you and just dropping a hint about what they were doing to you. Just dropping a subtle hint, but the mind doesn't quite connect. It's like something out of a Jason Bourne film. The mind doesn't quite connect. Now, they knew I was having interaction, but it's what can be proven. But they were testing something as well. So I was subjected to the most vicious mind control, and by heck, it's vicious. And it still goes on. It certainly does, and it is related to interaction with the UFOs at some level as well. And I cannot describe to your listeners the sheer living hell of being tortured with mind control because you're different in some way, because mainstream society denies it, because certain elements of the government wants war, wants conflict, wants an undemocratic process with our society. It's on mission creep is all this, René. And it's,
why do you feel that they're targeting you in that you've had these experiences? What is it, to make you seem crazy? Is it so that people won't believe you?
Yeah, that's the general gist. Part of it is to make you crazy. Part of it, however, is because of the overriding forces that rule our world, that the American psychic espionage units discovered to their horror in 1950. The American government discovered to their horror in 1950, I think, before even the declassification of the mainstream remote viewing programs, what was going on. They discovered under a popular thing I looked at was something called the Cohens elite. Everybody will have heard of Majestic 12. Sure. They may not have done, but your listeners probably will have done, or Majority 12.
MJ12, right?
The MJ12, yeah. There is a shadow government. It is there. It does deal with the UFO situation, and I was closely watched by them. And I believe that part of the shadow government was using mind control on me. They are unconstitutional, and they run. There's a dark element. So part of it is to do with UFO contact. Part of it is to do with the dark occult elements of the UFO situation, which was discovered by an organization called the Cohens Elite. And I recommend a book, which is probably the highest underrated book ever written, by Nick Redfern, called Final Events, because it pieces together something called the work of the Cohens Elite, who were a classified agency who were researching the occult connections behind UFOs. And the reason for this was because the Americans were having something called a UFO air war in 1950. And what was happening was, and this is documented, was that UFOs were invading US airspace.
Everyone, Lorian Fenton here, host of the California MUFON radio show, asking if you'd like special access to exclusive and amazing information about UFOs, the paranormal, and all things unexplained. If you're nodding yes, then join IRN's Insider Club. As an Insider Club member, you'll get an all-access pass to premier Inception Radio Network content for only $4.99 a month. This includes live UFO and paranormal conferences, live streaming UFO skywatches, exclusive IRN radio and TV productions, and of course, paying radio with MJ and Ken Storch. So don't wait any longer. Visit InceptionRadioNetwork.com and click on Member Login to join IRN's Insider Club and get your VIP access today.
Are you a fan of Inception Radio Network? Do you reckon it's the best alternative talk radio station on the planet? Well, if you do, head to facebook.com/Inception Radio Network and like the page. Tell your friends, spread the word, and keep listening to the best. Do you have a smartphone? If so, Inception Radio Network is the best app for you. Available on iTunes, Android, Samsung, and most other app stores. Just search Inception Radio Network. With the app you can listen live, check out podcasts of recent and past shows, view our videos, see what shows are coming up, who the guests are, and, via the chat room, send live questions to those guests. You know it makes sense. Check your app store now. Inception Radio Network. I'll see you there.
Hey, IRN listeners, make sure you tune in to Nightvision Radio with René Barnett. René will be exposing the truth one secret at a time. When? Thursdays. Every Thursday, 10:30 p.m. Eastern, 7:30 p.m. Pacific. Where? Right here on IRN.
Hello, IRN listeners. This is MJ saying hello and sharing an awesome secret I discovered. It's called DreamNuage.com. Fresh, raw, organic ingredients are used to create all their products. They are made in very small batches to ensure quality and freshness. Handmade in the USA, each product is created with care and with the finest organic ingredients. There are no preservatives, dyes, or chemicals in any product. Stop by Dream Nuage and relax. That's DreamNuage.com. Simple, raw, organic.
You're locked into Inception Radio Network, Superior, Wisconsin.
And we're back. Apologize for that technical difficulty. It sure came at a strange time, but could be coincidence. Don't know. Anyhow, we're back with Tony Topping. He is the CE5 experiencer who has been surveilled by the shadow government and harassed, and we're going to find out a little bit more about his story. And so, Tony, you said something. You were talking about this Cohens elite group, and something that I think Nick Redfern, you said, had done some extensive research.
Yes. Yes.
And put in his book. Can you tell us a little bit more about this group?
Yeah, yes, indeed. So what is interesting is that I was trying to get to the bottom of what had happened to me, and I found out in the last from 2014 to 2015, I fully found out what was happening to me. Some of it is not in the public domain. I pieced it together what was going on. It took me about 13 years, which is pretty good going considering you're not scientific minded or got the resources. And it's luckily for me these Scandinavian looking people, which is they're a comical lot, really. They are. It's a comical thing to see is all this, but darkly comical. But the Cohens elite, where was we? Yeah, they were an agency in the United States that discovered the fact that they were having a situation regarding UFOs coming in over their airspace, and it consisted of the FBI, the Navy, and the Air Force. The rumor is that they're still at large today, and they specialize in the occult elements of UFOs. What they discovered, I'll keep it very simple, but they managed to trace these incidents, and it was known as the UFO Air War of 1950, they managed to piece it together to the fact that it was these UFOs were coming in because of occult rituals. They were coming in because, and the bigger the occult ritual, the more the presence. Now, the fact of the matter is that this presence is known by these off-world visitors as being a form of life that should be respected, and it's so a very kind of, they termed them non-human entities, or NHEs. And what is interesting is that Linda Howe gives reference to them in the book High Strange Volume 1. She gives reference to a mysterious meeting she had with people from the US Department of Defense, and she wasn't aware of the Cohens elite, who told her, roughly, what Nick Redfern had written about. And it sounds like there was a cross-correlation going on. And then there was my research as well, where I was watching something in the shape of my experiences. If you imagine when you are dreaming, René, at night or whatever, I probably don't dream like a normal individual. I have all kinds of things happening. And what was happening was something very twisted, creepy and sinister kept wandering into my awareness and out again. And it was beyond the people who were causing the mind control. So I was dealing with a dual level situation, because the people who were causing the mind control actually had no idea what they were getting into with me. Absolutely no idea at all, because they were good but not God. And so the Collins elite discovered that an element of the situation humanity faces with UFOs is to do with something called non-human entities and an overruling type ancient force that has been with us for a very long time. If you're going to invade the human race, you're not going to do it with laser beams down the street and Wars of the World stuff. You're going to be a bit more cunning and sinister than that, and you're possibly going to sit yourself within the collective unconsciousness, the collective of humanity in the area of thought and consciousness. Hence the secret societies and all the symbols that we see around us, and the pop culture that we see where they've got all the one-eye stuff going on. What is that really? What does that refer to, really? Well, it refers to something that is non-human, is what it refers to. But you see these pop stars.
Are you referring to the symbol of the all-seeing eye?
Yeah, indeed. Yes, indeed.
Okay.
Yeah. And what we approve of his undertaking upon high. The all-seeing eye. We approve of the undertaking on high, but whose undertaking do we approve of? And that is what the shocking discovery was of some of America's and maybe Russia's covert agencies to do with psychic espionage. Russia, in particular, has an astounding story about it. So we can see that these agencies were involved in monitoring all this, and I just stumbled into it. It's as if I was purposely kind of taught, put there to understand what was going on, quite intentionally, all this. And so, so really I've been to hell and back with it, René, and I've been quite really brief on that, really. But, I've been to hell with it and back, and it's been a staggering journey so far. It has to be said, a real staggering journey.
Well, it must be. I just can't imagine. Now, what is it that you experience on a daily basis?
I can experience on a daily basis something that I term when people are dreaming. If you see the film Inception, you will find, I don't know whether you've seen that, there's a film called Inception. Leonardo DiCaprio is in that. It kind of like, it's many layers, it's like dream warfare where it's many layers deep. So what the conscious mind goes many layers deep and sees other things, basically, in a very simple nutshell. So what I call it is I see activity within a space-time continuum. So what happens is that the time continuum, a continuum, imagine it as being a signal in time that everybody sees and everybody hears, but it's not connected to time locally. So what you've got is this component element to the UFO phenomena, where time isn't local. Everybody, the time travel element of it's not local. It can happen all the time, and so therefore, René, I can see, and I've been subjected to the most craziest, hair-raising stuff. Some of it is very scary. And it's signatures in time. It's to do with parallel universes and signatures in time, which I've been exposed to. The problem is that I don't quite know why. why precisely that's happened. But one of the most interesting things recently that's happened is the interaction with the Scandinavian-looking people in the UFOs. And I think that's far more interesting for your listeners than the nitty-gritty of what goes on a daily basis, because it can get nightmarish. But I know why, and I know that these groups, these extraterrestrial groups, I know that there are those who look like us, and there are those that are dimensional in nature. And I know that there is a particular focus with these groups on operations to do with the United Kingdom and further secretive operations. They don't just fly over people's houses for the hell of it. There's something goes on with them as a mass, as a group, as a collective, these extraterrestrials. They're here. They have an investment in doing something here. And we know this. And what is interesting is that the groups that look like me and you, and the Scandinavian ones, especially the Scandinavian tall blonde ones, who are a very rum lot, are not happy with the situation that happened to me. Can you imagine that, René? It sounds so narcissistic and self-important that you have a group of people who are not happy about the fact that a human being on a housing estate has been exposed to something by another group of extraterrestrials whose ethics are questionable. And that's what they're not happy with. So what you're seeing is this gigantic kind of interaction going on, me in the middle of it, and a mysterious human third party also involved that does not declare its hand, but is present. So I'm a man who's involved in operations to do with UFOs. I'm a man who seems to be involved in something that's constantly eluding him as to why. Not quite, still, we're not quite there as to why it is, but we're halfway there, quarter of the way there, which was better than not being there at all. But it's taken me 13 to 14 years to understand. I think one of the most fascinating interactions, and it was when I fell asleep a few weeks back. I went and had an afternoon snooze, and next minute I know I'm nodding off, and next minute I know I'm asleep. They're over the house. They're literally over the house, these blonde Scandinavian people with a UFO. As I slept, I saw them come in over the house, sweep over the top of the house, and register to me that they were there. But they were very respectful of the fact that they were like strangers in a stranger's land. And that was quite present, and it was a female, and they were making me aware that they were here, and they were making me aware that the interaction, the moment I had with them, was one of real life. That's all I can describe it, René, as if we were sat in the room with each other, as if it was perfectly normal, but yet they were strangers in a stranger's land. It was just as if the country they were flying over, the airspace they were in, wasn't owned by them. It was just such a perceptive feeling, and the fact that they were just there, they were just present, and they keep coming up all the time, being present to initiate some sort of protection with me. I'm actually protected by them, and they've indicated to me various things that are going on, of what is to come, of the fact that I'm going to film a second UFO, which is going to be them. But they were very respectful of the environment they're in. Their UFO was cloaked. They were aware that our military would not be able to see them, but they were present over the house, and they keep showing their presence. And I think this is because they're, what's the word I'm looking for? They're doing a kind of a show of diplomatic kind of strength because of the people who targeted me, who've traumatized me, frankly. And if it wasn't, I think, for these blonde people, I don't think I'd be alive to tell the tale, René. Actually,
that's really wild. Now, these blonde people,
isn't it?
Have you had a communication with them,
yes.
whether it be by speaking or by telepathy, or what was the message?
Okay, well, how can I put it? The message is kind of like it's an ongoing thing. It's basically there's two groups that we're mainly dealing with, really. One group is dimensional. And these blonde Scandinavian-looking aliens speak to them. And the thing is that the dimensional group, when you are dealing with dimensional alien contact with a UFO. This is never written about, René, by the way. This is why people are absolute contactees get absolutely baffled by it. Is because quite simply you're exposed to a space-time continuum. You're not just exposed to an experience, an hallucination. In some cases, you're exposed to passing realms. So what you'll do is you'll pass, if you're dealing with dimensions, dimensional ETs, for example, you're very rudimentary. You'll pass from this life across into their realm, but at the same time, you're passing through a spiritual realm, i.e., you're passing into an afterlife, going through that into their dimension, and then coming back again. But time is not local. For some reason, you are positioned forward in time and forward in history from where you are originally. And then what happens is that you're placed back in time and back in the current time of where we are now. And everybody knows this. Not everybody knows this, that's bizarre, but everybody in the continuum knows this, really. And because the rules are, the continuum is not bound by time. And you're exposed. As a contactee, you are exposed, as any of the true contactees will tell you, to all kinds of strange goings on because of that happening to you. And as these Scandinavian pointed out, the fact of the matter is that their morals and ethics of what they've done to me, they just appear to have put it out the window, what I've been exposed to because of them. And I still don't know what they've done to me. These Scandinavian-looking blonde people have taken issue with the fact that is what I've been exposed to, and it hasn't been good for me, and they find it immoral. It's interesting. I recommend the book Co-Evolution by Alec Newald. And he had a contact experience with these individuals, so with these dimensional ETs. He got a knock at the door, rumoured from two organisations, one of which wanted to take his car, the Australian Defence Research Establishment, and what is rumoured to be the Royal Institute of International Affairs. And therein lies another story, René. The Royal Institute of International Affairs, therein lies another story, which I'll go into if you don't mind, with it all. What we've done is we've jumped narrative, really. I'm talking about the interaction with the Scandinavian-looking people. They're a scientific civilization. They're located in the Andromeda galaxy. Their operations they were a nation of seafarers, so they tell me. The Andromeda galaxy is younger than the Milky Way, so where have they come from? I'm not too sure, but I understand that my interaction will continue with them. But it's what I've been exposed to, René, that has disturbed them, because the interdimensional ETs, their ethics they're just not interested in ethics. They're just not interested in, and this is what happens with some contactees. They're exposed to this, and then they're put back in normal reality, and they have to pick up the pieces of their life. And it's like something out of a sci-fi movie, because then you have various agencies starting to monitor you. There are certain agencies who know about this. They know what I'm talking about. They know that this goes on. And then you end up being monitored, tracked, tagged, and in some cases subjected to mind-invasive technology of nightmare proportions. Do
you feel that this surveillance, are they trying to extract information from you?
They weren't. Yes, they weren't at the time. At the time when they were doing all this, what they were trying to do was neurally monitor me. So what they were trying to do at the time, I think, is that they were trying to monitor my interaction with the UFOs, because they knew it was happening, but they couldn't see them and they couldn't quite interact with them. And the fact of the matter is, just reading through my journals, is that the harassment would happen about 2 to 3 days after an interaction. So they can't predict when the UFOs would turn up. They couldn't predict when I was interacting with them, nor could they see when I was interacting with them, but they had a rough idea, so then they would hit me about 2 days later with the mind control stuff. And this appeared to be the constant modus operandi of interaction, and then 3 to 2 days later harassment, interaction, harassment, and so on and so forth. Mm-hmm. And I think this is because human affairs are controlled by something that is non-human, but we have to be very respectful, just very respectful. This sounds bizarre, really, but we do. You have to be very respectful when playing with fire. You have to respect fire. That's the thing.
Interesting story. Tony Topping, CE5 experiencer.
Fenton here, host of the California MUFON radio show, asking if you'd like special access to exclusive and amazing information about UFOs, the paranormal, and all things unexplained. If you're nodding yes, then join IRN's Insider Club. As an Insider Club member, you'll get an all-access pass to premier Inception Radio Network content for only $4.99 a month. This includes live UFO and paranormal conferences, live streaming UFO skywatches, exclusive IRN radio and TV productions, and of course, paying radio with MJ and Ken Storch. So don't wait any longer. Visit InceptionRadioNetwork.com and click on Member Login to join IRN's Insider Club and get your VIP access today.
Are you a fan of Inception Radio Network? Do you reckon it's the best alternative talk radio station on the planet? Well, if you do, head to facebook.com/Inception Radio Network and like the page. Tell your friends, spread the word, and keep listening to the best. Do you have a smartphone? If so, Inception Radio Network is the best app for you. Available on iTunes, Android, Samsung, and most other app stores. Just search Inception Radio Network. With the app you can listen live, check out podcasts of recent and past shows, view our videos, see what shows are coming up, who the guests are, and, via the chat room, send live questions to those guests. You know it makes sense. Check your app store now. Inception Radio Network. I'll see you there.
Hey, IRN listeners, make sure you tune in to Nightvision Radio with René Barnett. René will be exposing the truth one secret at a time. When? Thursdays. Every Thursday, 10:30 p.m. Eastern, 7:30 p.m. Pacific. Where? Right here on IRN.
Hello, IRN listeners. This is MJ saying hello and sharing an awesome secret I discovered. It's called DreamNuage.com. Fresh, raw, organic ingredients are used to create all their products. They are made in very small batches to ensure quality and freshness. Handmade in the USA, each product is created with care and with the finest organic ingredients. There are no preservatives, dyes, or chemicals in any product. Stop by Dream Nuage and relax. That's DreamNuage.com. Simple, raw, organic.
You're locked into Inception Radio Network, Superior, Wisconsin.
You're back with us on Night Vision Radio. My guest tonight is Tony Topping. I'm your host, René Barnett, and we are talking about scary stuff to do with aliens, but even some of the scarier stuff almost is what's being done by certain humans right here on Earth to each other. So we'll get back with it. Yeah, Tony, did you want to finish the point that you were on? Sorry, we had another interruption.
Yeah, no, you're okay. It happens. So the thing is that you're not prepared when you're having all these experiences, and I'm going very deep tonight, really, for your listeners, which I think they appreciate. But you're not prepared for the mindset that comes at you with all this, because they put you under kind of covert surveillance. So what they do is, as I say, if you've seen the Jason Bourne film, The Bourne Ultimatum, I always use the kind of the metaphor of Waterloo Station. In that film, there's a classic scene where the Guardian newspaper journalist, uncovers a classified program of mind control called Blackbriar. And he's monitored on Waterloo Station very closely that Jason Bourne has got the journalist, but Jason Bourne is aware he is under surveillance. And then it cuts to this dramatic scene of the people who have got Bourne under surveillance. And what is interesting is the underlying psychological mindset of the people doing that, the people doing the monitoring, the people acting undemocratically, as if they're doing what they're doing is perfectly normal in some bizarre defence of freedom and their country, and so on and so forth. And it's that mindset, that kind of psychopathic mindset that you're not prepared for. And if you can imagine, René, when I was targeted, this guy who was with his Dr. Strangelove circus, who had this technology to wake me up on a morning, if you could imagine walking past him, which I did, he came into a pub one evening, and if you could imagine walking past that individual and that individual mentioning something extremely confidential that only you would know about in a single sentence, and then talking as if nothing else had happened, it's very shocking. But it's not what you know, it's what you can prove. We can prove that that was possibly mishearing. We can prove that that may be a product of schizophrenia, when in fact what is known is that I was under overt and covert surveillance for a number of years by them. It's all based on not what you can prove, not what you know, it's what you can prove. That's the whole way they get away with it. And it kind of brings some unethical and sinister questions as to what they were doing. And they enjoy the full immunity of the national security system. And what is even more troubling here in the UK, René, is our leader, David Cameron, has decided that if you're a citizen obeying the law, that may also now not be good enough. If you're obeying the law and you've got nothing to fear, you may now have something to fear with all the laws that they're bringing in and all the new surveillance powers that they're bringing in. But yet we have a police that is not even resourced to do that. So that means that somebody like myself could now come under these very bizarre anti-terrorism laws and extremism laws that are now coming in. Even me talking about this could come under this disgusting Tory government that we have in power, could come under subversion, vexation, could come under, kind of like extremism. And that's where the mission creep is, because not only that, I've seen the technology that is invasive upon the human mind. The technology is in place. I know they did it to me for 5 years with this mind control technology. It's already there. It's in place. And what they do is they're pushing for more surveillance powers. Is it the very people who targeted me that are pushing for more surveillance powers? Because if it is, by Christ, they've already got the technology to invade your mind. Therefore, the surveillance mission creep will be the human mind. And what is the monstrous esoteric conspiracy behind all this is that the mind, it's wanted for some reason, it's needed, it's used, it's invaded. That's the key, and that's a very shocking conspiracy behind it all. And just as I say, thank God for these Scandinavian people or looking UFO people who I think saved my life, really, because I think I wouldn't be alive now, ready to tell the tale, frankly. Because they know they're advanced people. They're also a rum lot, quite comical, really. And they know what's happening in our world.
You've said a couple times that they're comical. What do you mean?
What is comical? Yeah, what I mean by that is that they are comical. They're very humorous. I tell you what is comical about this, René, and it is comical, is the fact that the bit where the world is tearing itself apart, and they came in over the house as if they were just coming to visit for a cup of tea. And quite routinely this will happen with them, where they come in over the house. Only last week, 6:15 on a morning, walking to my local shop to get a newspaper, and walking back again, and this great big white light just blinks over the house, and then flies off, and you could just see the object, and it was the same skin tone and colour as them. And I thought, hello, they're here. And it was about 6:15 in the morning. They're just showing their presence. They were just there and off. And in a world that tears itself apart, it's quite comical that this, for me, that has become quite normal. The interaction with them has become normal. And the interaction with the dimensional ETs is a different ballgame altogether, because I call that crossing the bridge. Because when they're present in the continuum, they give this simulation of crossing a bridge over to me. Of it coming into my awareness as if crossing a bridge across time and space. But that with them, what they then turn around and say is, they call it Yazmat. Just look that up, Yazmat. They keep calling me Yazmat. I am known as Yazmat, which is Sanskrit for the causal nature of the commencement of the situation. I am responsible for this situation. So what they do is they expose me to a certain type of environment. As a human being, they expose me to this environment and then tell me that it's actually my fault that happened in the first place, which is where the area of disagreement lies among them. Staggering but true. It's taken me 14 years, Rennie, to piece this together, and I haven't really. I'm very lucky to make a very small living from it. I packed in my job. I had a very high-pressure job, very responsible job, and I walked away from it partly because of all that had been going on. When my father died in 2010, 3 days after he died, I was whacked with mind control. 3 days after he died, they whacked me with this high-technology stuff, and I could not take any more. I'm nearly in tears over it, actually, but I could not take any more. And I have no idea why they did that, but they did. And it's hideous. But it's also to do with the endurance of human freedom to evolve with and take our place, I think, in the greater nature of things among them. And that is the thing. And what is even more amazing and even more humorous, as I say, is this routine liaison that I have with them that's becoming quite normal to see them. And it's especially true, Rennie, of the women. They are female. 9 times out of 10, they are female. And this leads us into the fascinating story of the Russian espionage people and Joseph McMoneagle and Alexei Yusavin, and the fact that these aliens that come in over my house are actually female. And the extraordinary incident that happened last year when I was filming for the broadcast of Channel 4 as well, which was extraordinary, you know. So it's quite deep. And I'm trying to just simplify it down. I'm so excited. I want to tell you more, but it's as if it's all released on a drip, drip, drip level. It's just subtly released. Their presence, what they're doing, where they come from. It's all subtly released at a very... It's like, really, you know, it's like a biblical kind of disclosure for modern times, you know. That appears to be what it's... I don't know. Sometimes, Renee, I just don't get it. Sometimes I feel like walking away from it all, because there are some times when I have some very dark days with it. I really do.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure how you could do that, though.
I can't, Lovey. No, I'm afraid I'm in it to win it, as they say, and I can't walk away from it. You know, it is to do with some element. There is a secret society element involved in it. You know, there certainly is. No, I can't walk away from it. And what is interesting to know is people talk about past lives, Renee. They talk about the past life. You'll hear in spiritual New Age kind of teachings all about the past life. But in my game, you also have the future life as well to contend with. And there's the distinct possibility that you can have your future life looking back at you and you looking at you in a future point. And that can be quite hair-raising. And you're looking at you, and you're looking back, and you're kind of somebody else in a future time looking at you. You're looking, and so on and so on. And it just you're thinking, my God, that's me. And that other person is thinking, my God, is that me? You know, do you get me? It's the most surreal thing. And that's what causes a paradox. That's what causes this Yazmat, the causal nature of it. It can cause quite a paradox. It can cause you to be exposed to all kinds of things, you know.
Now, you mentioned something about human evolution, and I've often wondered, you know, not being a person who's having these experiences, do you think that these things, and, you know, certain people who seem to have, you know, telepathic abilities or psychic abilities, and then you have this situation where you're in communication with interdimensional or possibly extraterrestrial beings, do you think that this is all part of our evolution, and that, you know, naturally we're not all just going to flip a switch and one day we're all going to be psychic or we're all going to be able to communicate with UFOs, but that more and more people will be doing this?
It's a good... Listen, Rennie, the thing in real life, you see, that's probably the... Listen, Rennie, did you hear me then? That did sound... I do apologise for that. I'm tired, sorry. Yeah, well, no, it's just something that people need to be aware of, that I feel strongly about. we talk of our human evolution, don't we? We talk of, as I said earlier, that we're part of them we're going into the cosmos and we're taking our place among them. But there's also the thing of the matter of the fact that their business is business with them, as Colonel Corso said. His U.S. Army unit, Colonel Corso, Philip Corso, the day after Roswell, where, if your listeners don't know, where back-engineered technology from Roswell. According to these people who fly over my house, the actual cover-up lies within the Third Reich. That's where the real cover-up lies. That's how it developed. That's how it became into a cover-up. And I've already maybe said too much there already, but this is where I hear it from. I get the information. My information comes from the people flying over my house. It doesn't actually come from anywhere else, really. Now, what is interesting is that our evolution, it may be a co-evolution, may actually be a joint evolvement with another race. There is an investment. It's not so much our evolution, it's an investment in their evolution at some level. One of these groups has got an investment within humanity, as if their people are merging with our people for another destiny, for a combined race. And you're not going to broadcast that openly either, because they don't do anything for nothing. Everything they do is done for a reason. And business is business with them. So, and Corso indicated as well that his technology department was dealing with foreign technology. He didn't just mean foreign, as in foreign governments of Earth. He actually meant foreign, as in foreign technology, foreign alien government, foreign alien military. Because they are these Nordics, for example. They'll have a foreign government. They have a foreign government. They have an air force, what we would call an air force. They have a scientific wing, exploratory wing. They are a civilization. They have governance. They have, the military. They have everything. And the Americans understood this. Even back in the 1950s, they perceived this is what possibly was going on, you see. So, and as Corso said in his second book, which I've forgotten the title of, these aliens turned around and more or less said, a brighter future, if you can take it. And what was interesting was the escalation of the Ukraine situation, which dramatically escalated, René, into possible conflict with Russia. And this was all due to NATO mixing it and causing, and the US mixing it as well, and causing a coup in the Ukraine, causing instability. And these UFOs, these Scandinavian people, the UFOs and the associated, were literally warning somebody about all this. As to where it was going, as to how it was tittering on the brink. And I remember very clearly a particular morning before going to film with the broadcaster Channel 4 of having these extraordinary visions. And it was them. Oh, the visions, René, when they're here in the present, these Scandinavian people, they have their own ideology, they have their own symbology, their own iconography. Which is slightly Mayan in some cases. And what happened was on that day I was going to film with Channel 4 on that particular morning. The Channel 4 documentary went out, by the way, and it was an absolute load of rubbish, really. It just, to all intents and purposes, it was just a mockery of people who had experiences, as the mainstream media do. But behind the scenes, there was a very different story going on, because when I was going to film outside a certain prestigious establishment in London that was possibly involved in all this, on that morning I had the most extraordinary vision delivered to me, and it was unmistakably them, and it was to do with the vision of two triangle craft hovering over my house when I slept. I was asleep about 6 a.m. It was the unmistakable vision of two triangle craft hovering over my house. These two giant clocks presented. One said midnight, the other said midnight, and it was as if we were 15 minutes to midnight. And this Nordic guy, Nordic male he was, distinctive looking gentleman. There was no doubt about who they were. And they were speaking to somebody, René, using me as like a repeater link. They were speaking to somebody, and it was as if somebody had muted the volume so I couldn't hear what he was saying. But he was speaking to somebody, and it was directed at someone. And with that, the Ukraine situation de-escalated. It's almost as if the governments of this world were being warned by them, because it was it was very, very dangerous what was happening. It was heading down a very dark road indeed. And it's as if in some way my interactions played a part in in world affairs. Now that sounds very grandiose, and I make no claim to that. I make no claim to anything what's going on, because that's dangerous ground as well. I think if you have grandiose kind of visions about what you think they are, what they might be, some element of this, you've got to think, well, were they testing high-tech military technology on me? Were they testing kind of like special alternative reality technology on me? Just an element. You've got to have that kind of, just that doubtness there. But there was no doubt, however, of what happened there, Rennie. Just no doubt whatsoever. And the visions were staggering, just beyond belief,
Now, if I could, I'd like to throw a question to you from the chat room. Neutron is asking, in your abduction experiences, is what he says, is your conscious memory and soul, do you have any feeling that your conscious memory and soul were transferred into another similar container or body? And did you see any black boxes on tables? And did you have an experience where headsets were put on your head?
That's interesting about the headset question, because I didn't have an experience where a headset was put on my head, but I have seen them with headsets on. Within UFOs, definitely, and I don't think that they were alien. I think they were more human when that happened. Yes, and I do believe that my soul and the vessel of who I am is operating in a second parallel reality at the moment. I'm running in two realities, and that's very bizarre. That is absolutely freaky when that happens, because you've got some very deep covert interests looking at all this as well, trying to get information about who they are, and trying to get information about what they're doing and why me, so that you're exposed to all this. There's a possibility that for example, when I explained that the UFO had come in over the house and that I knew it was them, and it was quite an intimate moment between the female and myself, and they'd come in over the house, and they were literally, it was as if in my awareness, they were literally flying over the house. Well, Rennie, what really happened there? I saw them flying over the house when I was asleep. I saw them say that they were here, that they were strangers in a stranger's land, etc., etc. But the fact of the matter is, I could have been abducted for an hour with them. I could have actually been flown off with them. And I have screen memories. That's what I see. But what happened might have been entirely different and may surface in a month, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, as to what happened to me. It is a possibility that I've probably had full-on interaction with them. A possibility, and it's a distinct possibility, that one of them has given birth to a child of mine, and I will have no idea of that. And that troubles me a great deal ethically. It really does. I'm saying possibilities. I'm not saying that has happened, because your listeners are intelligent, so I'm going very deep with it here than what I would normally do. But that appears to be what is the situation at the moment with it. Yeah.
Now, have you made any connections with other people who've had experiences with the same beings and also had this surveillance and this harassment going on?
There's a guy in Sweden at the moment who's had a similar situation where they were stood in his living room, and he's coming out with certain things that would indicate a cross correlation with myself. There's also Alec Newwold, the New Zealander guy who had a contact experience. He wrote a book called Co-Evolution. They're dotted around, but they're few and far between. There are possibly a couple of females, one Canadian woman who's having similar experiences to myself, because she's probably exposed to a continuum environment, a space-time continuum environment, which is something which is the cross we contactee experiences have to bear. That's not written about anywhere. It's the effects of being displaced in time and outside of our normal time frame and being put back again, is what's not written about, René. There are very few and far between. The nearest match I've got is the Russians, the Russian cosmonauts and the Russian psychic spy unit, and the people who were doing work for them are the nearest people that I could match up who were similar to experiences as myself, really. And it's very tricky. I'm very unique in that sense. I'm not here to, as I say, René, I'm not here to grandiose myself. I'm not here to be narcissistic about all this. It's very real. It actually happened, and it's not a game. It certainly is not a game, I'm trying to write a book, Rennie. I can't get my head around it. No matter how hard I try, I'm disrupted. For example, the other evening, last week, 4 weeks ago, this was, I'm expecting a UFO to be filmed. I'm expecting to film one again. I'm expecting to get some striking footage. And I've been for the past 10 years, during the course of 10 years, on 3 occasions I've had attacks by UFOs. I've actually been attacked on 3 occasions now, during the space of 10 years, by small dot of light UFOs. And it was just horrendous what happened about 4 weeks ago. That one of them came in over the house, and they used some kind of mind invasive technology on you, and it just sent my head spinning. And I even knew when they were over the house deploying it as well. And and what they were doing is they turned up, whoever they were, because they were trying to see what I was wanting to film. They were also coming to have a look as well. And this is kind of like the stuff that you have to deal with. I know it sounds far out and wild, but if we are to evolve and understand as a human race and prevent incidents of governments going to major war with each other in our world, this is probably why they're here. And the investment of the fact that I think that one of these groups has invested in having their children here in some way in our society at some level is also true as well. I think there's some integration going on there as well. So it's all very deep, René. More deeper than is what is written. If you get my drift.
Sure.
And it gets to a point where you lose sense of reality and you become mentally exhausted continually. The reality of being a contact experiencer isn't one of enlightenment and they've come to save us. It involves elements that are militaristic. It involves elements that are spiritual. It involves elements that are evolutionary. It involves elements of time travel. It's not like it's written about in a real life.
Yeah, that's why it's so hard to understand. It's just so complex and so many layers, it sounds like.
Yes, yeah.
It's intertwined into every aspect of...
It is. Yes, it is. And the thing is, in our society, in British society, the media laugh at people like me. The mainstream media laugh at people like me. The newspapers and all that kind of thing, they all think it's one crazy joke, when behind the scenes... it's far from crazy. The Ministry of Defence indicate that there is no defence significance regarding the UFO situation. Don't kid yourself. The Ministry of Defence in my country will be very interested in monitoring all this. All defence establishments across the world in governments are monitoring all this very closely, including Japan. I would think Japan issued a denial about UFOs. The Japan Defence Ministry recently, issued a denial about it when they know full well that interaction is actually occurring with people and the population in general. And the British public are more switched on to this than the media give them credit for. And I have people walking up to me from all walks of life, sharing their experiences with me, and a lot of people don't want to talk about it. So there'll be somebody out there within Britain who'll be having experiences probably like myself, but has never talked about it. Unfortunately, I say unfortunately, I've decided to talk about it. I decided to go and disclose. Hence my YouTube content is known as Covert Witness. And I have blogs on my YouTube channel that are called the Covert Witness blogs, where I explain in greater detail, Rennie, than what I am now, of what's going on, of what's happening on a weekly basis. They've come in over the house. No, they haven't. Yes, they have. I'm feeling exhausted. I've seen this. I've seen that. And just recently, as I say, my topic has been about the mission creep of the surveillance state. And what they're doing with surveillance on people and all that kind of thing, which worries me a great deal.
I can imagine, and I can understand why with your experiences. Now, you mentioned earlier, and I mentioned to you on the break that it was intriguing to me what you said about there was this occult element to the whole thing, and you mentioned this idea of this force, this ancient force that's always been there, and it's not always nice, and yes, that there are people, and I'm assuming you're talking about people who are practicing occult rituals and secret societies, that type of thing.
Yes.
Who are they trying to call this force? Are they trying to harness it for their purposes? How is it that this is having an effect?
Well, I think what it is that they seem to perceive, and this was mentioned by the DoD to Linda Moulton Howe. They seem to, and also I think in Nick Redfern's book it got a mention. They seemed at one point to understand that they could control this force. But in fact, this force always gives the impression that it's losing when in fact it's winning. It's a very ancient force. It's the kind of force that, and this is where it gets, for somebody like me, highly dangerous, because it's the kind of force that manipulated us into 2 world wars. It's the kind of force that people see in our culture today. We've got the old one-eyed salute here, there, and everywhere in the fashion industry, in the music industry. It's in worship of that. And the golden secret of all, I think, is what I've just explained, where we go to another level where the interaction goes into a collective. If there is a collective unconsciousness of humanity, there is a collective unconscious of that is not human as well. There definitely is, and that's a very big secret. But there is a collective unconsciousness that is not human. And sometimes the two will merge into each other, like has happened to me. And predominantly what is even more fascinating, René, is that there is an ancient kind of positive, prevailing female collective unconsciousness as well. There is, whereby the female, for example, that flew over my house is curiously and unconsciously linked to yourself. As a female on Earth, it's an unconscious thing. As the guy pointed out in Russia, a guy called Alexei Yusavin, his special psychic spy unit used women in his unit because they were better at communicating with extraterrestrials. And the Russians did a whole operation. It's documented. It's in Pravda, where his unit communicated with extraterrestrials, and 90% of the time they were female. The interactions that happen 90% of the time are with females, as always happens with me. The very rare 10% is with male ET, but mainly female ET. And there's this prevailing secret order, it would appear, throughout the universe. When it gets to planet Earth, however, it has become distorted and deprived beyond belief. And the thing is, with it, René, is that this very ancient force that must be respected, that I talk of, that the highest adepts know of, is insane. It's lost its frigging mind, and it knows it. And it also knows that it's caught in its own paradox. How bizarre is that? I have reason to suspect that it's this ancient force is that secret societies worship is aware of its own mortality and aware that it's bonkers. It's aware that one cannot exist without the other. It even has to evolve. But at the moment, as we can see in our world, it's Lord, it's a scary world that we're living in, and where we're going in the future. That's what they're trying to do, I think, René. They're trying to abort us from going down a certain course of action as a human race, especially the United Kingdom and America, and especially Britain. Seems to be a very big focus on this country, and I have no idea why, because it's become one of the most oppressive, soft, oppressive countries in the world. I think, with this guy we've got in power at the moment in Downing Street, it's become one of the most soft, oppressive societies. But yet, still, they are interested in the United Kingdom and all that it's doing. You wouldn't think so, would you? But they are. We've got a defence. Our defence is run down. Our police force are underfunded. Yet, still, they're interested in this country, the UK, very much so. And it's, I don't know whether an element of my government has already spoken to them or whether they haven't. But they're here, René. These ETs are here, and there's no mistaking them. And they're from other galaxies. You know,
it's fascinating what you said about a lot of females, a lot of women being involved. And, it seems like, as, I've done a lot of research into suppressed history and ancient knowledge and that sort of thing. And it seems like, and secret society, it seems like when you start to peel those back, a lot of times you get to a place where you find that there's some sort of worship or veneration of the feminine. And is that, sort of symbolic of what you're talking about? That
Yes.
maybe there is a secret, maybe there, and,
Yes.
women, throughout history have been suppressed
Yes.
and called witches and
Yes.
crazy and all this when they show any kind of psychic ability or
Yes.
telepathy, ESP, anything
Yes.
like that.
Yes, yes. What is shocking, René, and it is shocking, and it's maybe, I think your listeners are what's the word I'm looking for, are quite an educated lot. I think they know that we can talk among friends here, because what is shocking is the way this kind of I can't quite put it into words because it even freaks me out. But basically, for example, it does appear that these ET women. What happened to me corrupted my soul, René. It made me a very dark man. It did. It corrupted me in many ways, what I was exposed to, and it's warped me. I've known abuse all my life. It's been nothing but abuse sometimes, and that kind of like as a man, it's warped me. So when you've got this extraordinary presence coming into your awareness of female ETs, this happened over the past 5 weeks, really, and I still have my moments with things. God knows I have some very dark days, but they are present and they are collective female. And what is interesting, Rennie, is that they look like you as an Earth female, but their features are absolutely striking. They seem to look after themselves as well, these non-Earth females. They're very much healthy individuals. They know how to look after themselves. They exude health. I know the first female ET I saw, I nearly died of fright. She was absolutely unbelievable. And yes, indeed, it is linked to a collective unconsciousness. And about a few weeks ago, I saw one of these ETs wander into my awareness that was clearly female, high forehead, flowing ginger hair, distinctly not human. And then next minute, you have these mysterious kind of forces, knowing that she was present in my awareness, literally taking the piss out of it. And that's a very sinister thing to contend with as a contactee experiencer, to know that you've possibly had an interaction with something that is non-human, that a force of corruption then takes that and literally mimics it, and rips the piss out of it. This is the real life kind of experiencer speaking of it. And there is, yes.
There we go.
Girlies
Sorry, I thought we lost you again.
And it's had, yeah. No, we're still here. No, it's had a profound effect on me. What's happened over the past few weeks, it has had an effect on me. It most certainly, it's reflected on me in some ways, but it's very difficult to deal with. But what I'm trying to do, Rennie, I'm tired, sorry. What I'm trying to do is trying to paint you the picture of what I saw, of what these non-Earth women look like. Because if you were to get one on your radio show, you'd find them fascinating. They're scientists. They're talented. They're clever. They know. It's really blessed. Really, I'm lucky to see such things. And they say they'll just casually say hello. They're across the whole galaxy. The feminine collective is across the whole galaxy. It is a secret order. That's exactly what it is. It's a secret order of the feminine, and it's not just known on Earth. It's known galactic wide as well. Isn't that fascinating, Rennie?
Yeah, absolutely. So gosh, we're getting close to the end of the show. So
we haven't even touched on it.
Oh my gosh. What is next for you? What is your plan, and are you still being subjected to the harassment at the same level that you were?
Yes, I'm still being subjected to a certain levels of harassment that are beyond the norm now. But that goes with the territory. I think that the interactions will continue. I'm wanting to do a major documentary about my experiences, but unfortunately, no mainstream broadcaster in the UK can be trusted with my material without them ripping the piss out of it and, taking, without me and ridiculing it. So I can't really trust them. Although I'm wanting to do a documentary. I'm definitely wanting to get my book, which I'm trying to write at the moment. I'm definitely trying to get that together. And my media content on YouTube has developed at a phenomenal level. So, I'm developing all my media content, writing the book, hopefully going to get the documentary out there. just to show people what goes on. At the moment, however, it seems to be I'm doing a bit of activism to do with the surveillance state. I'm very troubled by these new surveillance powers in my country, very troubled about where that's leading to with somebody like me, which means that you can get a knock at the door, René, in my country for coming on a program like this. You could actually get a knock at the door as if you were living in communist China. For coming on a program like this and saying what I'm saying, I could actually get a knock at the door from the authorities. And that is where I'm at the moment, and it is just, I think, totally sinister that can happen in a democratic society. I'm very concerned about the elected government that we currently have elected on 24% of a majority vote in the UK, the Conservative government in the UK. I'm very concerned about what they're doing, very concerned. And the interactions will continue. I've got visions, René, of going up in a UFO with these Nordics, and one of them is probably high on some type of alcohol or something like that, and doing a whirlwind tour in one of their spacecraft and being put back again. I've just got visions of that happening. That may happen, but it's just a continual learning process. And I may not complete it in this life either, but that's what it is for me. It certainly is, René. We've gone very deep tonight, though. Really, really deep. And I wanted to keep it really kind of like superficial and light, but it appears we've gone very deep into experiences that leave the listener and your audience and even me asking more questions. But I hope that I've painted the picture, which was my mission tonight, to describe what really happens to a contact experiencer that's not written about in books and not seen on the internet, the real nitty-gritty of what goes on with it. I hope I've achieved that tonight.
But why do you think that we haven't seen this written about or talked about until now?
There's a high-level cover-up in place. There definitely is a high-level cover-up in place, and the cover-up is a very effective one. It is as if that these things I'm coming out with are not written about anywhere on the internet at all, and are not written in books by UFO researchers either. We've got this repeated theme. Including the Roswell slides that recently happened. We've got this repeated theme of running round in circles with material, telling us what the generals thought about the strange light that came over, what the witnesses thought about the strange light they saw, what everybody else thought, what the information filed about it was. But as soon as we get to this level, René, when we get to this level of the contactee experience and what goes on, you suddenly found you become a bit of a pariah. You become a bit of a lone wolf. My own UFO community, in some cases, doesn't want to know me. Not that I'm interested in that, because I'm a lone wolf. I'm not bothered about that at all. But there is like this invisible, bizarre oppression of this kind of information that I'm coming out with, and it's effective in its oppression, but it's oppressed for all the wrong reasons, and the cover-up, I think, is in place for all the wrong reasons as well, and it's sending the human race down a road that it doesn't want to go down, I think, René, between you and me, and the listeners.
Gosh, it's so much to digest. I mean, as you said, it seems like everything has touched every element of life, every element of our planet and beyond.
It is, and the thing is that, they showed me visions of other planets and other places, and the fact that the universe is certainly populated, Andromeda is certainly populated, the fact that the Zulu Nation knew about Scandinavian visitation before even we did. It's documented in Zulu folklore that the Wazugu, the children of the dust devil, visited them on numerous occasions. They call them Wazugu, and then when they saw the Western European male visited, they actually called us Wazugu. So
Tony, I'm sorry I have to break in. The music is rolling, and we're going to have to go, but it's been really, really interesting, and lots of new information, things that I've never heard, and I'm sure the listeners have not heard before. So lots to digest, and I hope you'll join us again sometime soon.
I think we need a part 2, René, don't we?
We sure do, absolutely. Thanks so much, Tony Topping, for joining us, and thanks to you, everyone. Good night.